Welcome to episode 3. Why do I keep calling these episodes? Much like the French society, the society of the French colony at Saint-Domingue consisted of three main groups. White planters and their families made up about 40,000 people. Free mixed-race people called the gens de couleur composed another 28,000 people. And then there existed about 452,000 enslaved people. By 1791, Saint-Domingue was the world's leading producer of sugar and coffee and accounted for 2/3 of France's tropical imports and generated nearly 1/3 of all French foreign trade. Saint-Domingue was the greatest individual market for the European slave trade and was an integral part of the economic life of the age. Known as the Pearl of the Antilles, Saint-Domingue was, as historian C.L.R. James put it, quote, the pride of France and the envy of every other imperialist nation. And the whole structure rested on the labor of almost 500,000 enslaved people. In 1789, when news of the meeting of the Estates General arrived on the island, wealthy white planters sent a delegation to Paris to seek more home rule and greater economic freedom. The mixed-race population also sent a delegation to ask for political rights and a limit on racial discrimination. They actually won some victories on that count. In fact, France sent down a decree that basically granted freedom and equal rights to certain members of Haitian society. How did the island whites take the decree? Not well. They were defiant. By 1791, whites and the gens de couleur were engaged in an open warfare. This gave the enslaved majority an opening to seek their own rights. In August 1791, Bucum Dudi, a Muslim cleric who became a voodoo priest, organized a ceremony at Bois Caiman. It was there that they planned their revolt, to destroy the plantations and take freedom into their own hands. They took a communion. They sacrificed and slaughtered a hog and drank its blood in an oath of secrecy. As Bucum Dudi said, the God of the white people demands from them crimes. Our God asks for good deeds. But this God, who is so good, demands vengeance. He will direct our hands. He will aid us. On August 22, 1791, the enslaved people rose up and began to destroy the sugar and coffee plantations. They set fire to the plantations, killed masters and overseers, burned crops, burned the sugar processing plants, and as they went, more and more people became liberated and started joining the revolt. It started with about 1,000 people, but grew to 20,000 people strong. The fires were so bright, as one of the historians spoke about in the film, people could read their mail even though they were 20 miles away from the fires. White people were panicking, bodies were piling up, and this goes on and on without much of a clear goal except to end the white minority domination. Enter Toussaint L'Ouverture, the main figure of the documentary you're supposed to watch. Now, Toussaint L'Ouverture was born into slavery. His original name at birth was François Dominique Toussaint, but he claimed his own name during the Revolution. He was somewhat educated and had somewhat a better life than he might have had if he had been working in the fields, for sure. He received his freedom in 1776, of all years, at the age of 33. Later, he owned a plantation. What? I know, it's weird, right? He owned a plantation and even owned maybe 1 or 2 slaves. That sounds weird to us, but let's just talk about in the United States, if Black people own slaves, it's generally someone they know, they're married, or related to. It's someone they can't necessarily free because of various state laws that outlawed emancipation or manumission. All right, back to L'Ouverture. When all the revolts break out, he goes to his former owner and helps his former owner escape and gets him safely out of danger. So this should all tell us that he's kind of a complicated figure. He's straddling 2 worlds, and now he's facing a decision. Should he assist the black rebels or help the whites regain control? And what does he choose? Yes, oui. Vive la révolution! L'Ouverture mobilized and trained a force of men to fight. When he takes control, he's also going to have to decide, how should the economy get going again? What's he going to do on that front? Well, he'll actually restart the plantations. But in the meantime, let's take a look at how Europe responds to this, because remember, the British have interests in the Caribbean. The Spanish control the other half of the island, what's now the Dominican Republic. So there's a lot of European interest in what's going on in Saint-Domingue. Spain wanted to take control of the entire island. They started out by assisting the revolt against the white planters. Toussaint L'Ouverture joined in this fight. England was looking at taking control of the island as well, and they sent 30,000 troops to Saint-Domingue. This was one of the largest expeditionary forces Britain had ever sent anywhere, just slightly less than what they sent to put down the American Rebellion. L'Ouverture and his forces defeated the British. Now I want to break in here and talk briefly about one way that the Saint-Domingue freedom fighters could be so successful. Disease had a huge impact on the invading European troops, and in a sense became part of the Saint-Domingue military strategy. If you're a revolutionary and see these thousands of troops unload, give them a couple of weeks and they're probably going to get sick of malaria or other mosquito-borne illnesses. They'll die on their own when mosquitoes do their thing. In the 2 years that Napoleon tried to take control of Haiti, Napoleon sent a total of about 50,000 troops. Only 3,000 came back to France, in large part not due to battle, but to disease. Now, initially, France sent in just 10,000 troops to put down the revolt. Louverture and his most trusted assistant, Jean-Jacques Dessalines, initially fought against them. But it's actually going to change, and they're going to fight with the French. The National Assembly back in France granted freedom, and once that decree went down, Louverture switched sides and joined the French forces to put down the Spanish. So once he switched sides to fight for the French, he was the most decorated military official in France. When all is said and done, in 1801, Napoleon sent a large military force called the Leclerc Expedition, named for his brother-in-law who led it. It seems at first he's just having them re-establish French control, but word gets back that the French had reinstituted slavery on the island of Guadeloupe. In 1801, Saint-Domingue was still technically a colony of the French Empire. They wanted to create a constitution in the mold of the American model of constitutionalism. They even sought advice from none other than who had been born in the Caribbean, by the way. He advised them on constitutional design. Having a constitution also seemed like a good idea to have some stability and independence, to show the world that a black republic could work. Toussaint L'Ouverture also thought that a written constitution would help entrench protections for equality and security, and also to secure his own power. In fact, the Constitution named him governor for life. It did something truly unique, something that the United States Constitution would not do until 1865. It forever banned slavery, no exceptions. The direct quote from the Constitution is, quote, "There cannot exist slaves on this territory. Servitude is therein forever abolished." End quote. Now, the United States Constitution's ban on slavery actually includes an exception. And I don't know if you know this, but it has written in the 13th Amendment, the exception for involuntary servitude is, quote, "as punishment for a crime." Film recommendation for this, Ava DuVernay's documentary 13, available on the Netflix. In 1802, there's a setback. Louverture, who had retired from being the first president of Haiti after about a year, was tricked into a meeting where he was captured and sent to France. That's where he died, freezing in prison on April 7, 1803. The next year, Toussaint's successors formally declared themselves to be an independent state. They renamed the country Haiti, and thus the Free Republic of Haiti became the second independent nation in the Western Hemisphere. There's a pretty great part of the Haitian Declaration. This is one of the documents in the document packet. I love this quote. "We have dared to be free. Let us be thus by ourselves for ourselves." And also, quote, "Let us allow our neighbors to breathe in peace. Let us not declare ourselves the lawgivers of the Caribbean." It's kind of telling the other islands, yeah, we're not going to try to take you over. You do you, let us do our own thing. That, and quote, "Let us vow to ourselves to posterity, to the entire universe, to forever renounce France, and to die rather than live under its domination, to fight until our last breath for the independence of our country. Wow. But Haiti lay in economic ruin, and it would only get worse. The United States reacted to Haitian independence in a very interesting way. When the revolution broke out, President John Adams initially restarted trade with them. The Federalist Party was very anti-France. But by 1804, Thomas Jefferson, the Democratic Republican president, who was in power at the time and also slaveholder, changed that policy. And the United States banned trade with Haiti and didn't recognize them as an independent country until 1862 during the Civil War. By the way, one of the first American diplomats to Haiti was the Maryland-born Frederick Douglass. This revolution, by the way, the Haitian Revolution, is going to scare the you-know-what out of Southern slaveholders. They will live in perpetual fear that the people that they are enslaving are formulating a rebellion. Maybe if you just granted freedom in the first place, you wouldn't have to worry about dying. Anyway, something to think about as we wrap up this section. Which of these revolutions do you think was the most revolutionary? You don't have to answer yet, but it's probably going to be on the exam in some form or another, probably an essay question if we do essay questions. And don't forget, quiz on Blackboard, wash your hands, socially distance, be safe, take care of yourselves and your families. And if you have any questions, always reach out to email me. Please schedule some time to meet with me on Zoom, even if it's just to say, hey, Dr. Warwick, how you doing? I kind of miss going to class. I'm worried about this online stuff. You know, this is a new world that we are venturing into. So please give me some feedback. Let me know how it's working.